very special forum. Let me begin. There we go. Let me begin by just expressing that whoever came up with this entire event, they flunked geometry. This was told to be a round table discussion. There is nothing round about this table. It is a U shape for whoever designed it. But we're going to have a great time this afternoon as we talk about issues that really affect all of us. And I think that most Americans are beginning to fully understand that there are two kinds of people who get elected to public office. There are the people who get elected because they really want the people of the country to serve them. And then there are people who get elected because they truly want to serve the people of the country. Donald J. Trump is here to serve the people of America. Look, let me be honest with you folks. Donald Trump was not my first choice for president. I was my first choice for president.
Would have been a good choice.
But I was one of those 16 people that he obliterated on the stage back in 2016. But I'm going to tell you this. The moment I got out, there was never a doubt as to who I was going to support. And for 8 years, this has been my president, and I know you want him to continue to be your president.
Great man.
No one who has ever been president has had the courage to face down the extraordinary giants of opposition that he's had to deal with. And I'm convinced that next Tuesday, when he wins and becomes not only the 45th, but the 47th president of the United States, this is going to be a time that we can celebrate of once again having a president that listens to the people rather than demands that the people just listen to him. And he serves us and works for us. A bottom-up government rather than a top-down government, and we're long overdue for it. That is for sure. Well, this afternoon, what a privilege to be here with 7 distinguished people from Southeast Pennsylvania, and also Congressman Lee Zeldin, the distinguished former congressman from New York, who is one of the smartest and most articulate people that we have in our political system today. But we're going to get started with this opportunity to just discuss some issues with some of these folks who live right here in your area. And I want to start with Donald Clark, who is right down here to my left. I don't think that's his political position to my left, although I don't think you could possibly be to my right, Donald. Not possible. He's a retired police lieutenant. He served 32 years with Upper Darby Township. He is going to be one of our panelists. And all of these folks are going to be talking. But before we get to the panelists, I know the person you came to hear was neither Donald Clark or me. It is our next president, ladies and gentlemen, President Donald J. Trump.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you. Thank you very much, everybody. It's great to be here. Yeah, this was supposed to be just a little group. We're talking about senior issues. There's a lot of people in here. Thank you very much. It's an honor. And I want to tell you, likewise, this man is a fantastic man. He has been from the day I met him, And he's smart, and he can be tough. Oh, he can be tough. He can be, you don't know that, right, Lee? We know. He can be a brutal guy, but always on the side of right. He's just a great guy, and he's been my friend. And I think we have never had we've never even had a spat, have we? With
Never.
All the years, right?
Not once.
Very, very good man. And,
I'm not that stupid. I'm not going to fight with you.
I love having him around, I'll tell you. I want to also thank, as you know, we have Congressman Lee Zeldin, who's fantastic. Almost did a big upset in New York. He ran against everybody's advice, and he pulled it. I mean, what you did was incredible. You showed it could be done, and maybe it can be done. We're going to find out in a few days. Because we had something the other night. It was incredible at Madison Square Garden. We could have filled it up many times. We could have filled that up, Mike, many times. We had it going down all the way down to people all the way back, if you're familiar with it, all the way down to the Hudson River. And nobody's seen anything like it. Even the owners, good people, very good people. And they said, we've never seen anything like this. And they've had some pretty big championships there over the years, Madison Square Garden. And Wesley Hunt, a person with a tremendous future. Great job. So thank you, Wesley. And this is an election that's really a choice between whether or not we'll have 4 more years of total failure. This has been the worst 4 years I've ever seen. Gross incompetence, but total failure, disaster under Kamala Harris. Nobody knows I say all the time, if you say Harris, nobody knows who the heck we're talking about, right? Harris. And this is what we have, or whether we'll begin the 4 greatest years in the history of our country. And we're starting a little bit from behind because we've been set back badly in every single way with inflation. I mean, the costs are way too high. And inflation's still higher than it's supposed to be with all that they've done to try and get it down. But they use the number, Mike, 20%, but it's probably 40 or 50% if you really look. Look, interest rates with us were 2%, and now they're 10%, and you can't get the money. They don't include interest rates. That's a big deal if you're buying a house or anything else. And so many other things they don't include, just like they don't include in their crime statistics the places that have the worst crime. We had that during the debate where David Muir of ABC said, no, I said, crime is through the roof. He said, no, sir, it's down. Crime is down. The next day they release it. I said, it's up 45%. And it's up. We have tremendous migrant crime. If you look at just that, it's been a disaster, a very dangerous crime. It's terrible what's happened at our border, what they've done to our country. At the border, Mike, I think it's interesting to say because every poll has inflation and the economy is the number one thing. And third is the border. I don't think it's that. I think inflation's horrible. It's destroying people. It's a country buster. But I don't think it's inflation. I don't think it's the economy. I think the number one thing is the border, that millions of people are being sent into our country. It was announced last week, you saw that, by the Border Patrol, which, by the way, endorsed me. They endorsed me so nicely. They've endorsed me every year, even though they're not supposed to. I think they're not supposed to, and they said we have to do what we have to do. But we had the best border ever in the history of our country, and now we have the worst border in the history of the world. This is the worst border. There's never been a border like this. They have open border. Anybody can come in. When I heard they were going to do that, we built 571 miles of wall. We had another 200 miles, far more than I said I was going to build. We had another 200 miles that was going to could have been put up in 3 weeks. It was all there, laying there, waiting to be lifted. Could have been put up in 3 to 4 weeks. And they said, we don't want to do it. And I said, wow, that's strange. If they don't want to do it, that means they must really want open borders. But I can't imagine wanting open borders. Who would want open borders? But they want open borders. Who would want men playing in women's sports? They want it. Who would want transgender operations for almost everybody in the world? They want them. This is a sick group of people, I'm telling you. And there's a great evilness. We want to come together as a country, but there's a lot of evil there. There's a lot of, you'd say, why do they want it? And so there's basically 3 reasons. Number one is they're stupid, which they're not, because I can tell you in Lancaster County, which we know very well, they found 2,600 fake voter registrations. You heard that? It's a big story. Well, where is it now? I think we have a very good DA, and he's probably going to do his thing, and I hope he will, but it's all written by the same hand. Okay, maybe that's just coincidence. Maybe everybody has exactly the same handwriting, right? So we just found that. That was one. And then we have in York, I remember York, easy to remember because I used to lift weights for about a week. Then I realized I don't want to do it. I realized I don't like it, Mike. And York was the barbells and all that stuff. I think that's moved to China, along with a lot of other things. Well, maybe we'll bring it back. We're going to tariff the hell out of them. We'll bring it back. I'd love to bring it back. No, it's true. I like to build it. So I'm building a gym. I'm building this gorgeous gym in my house, in the basement of my parents' house, and I'm putting it up. And I couldn't sleep at night. I was so excited. It was really beautiful. I'm really good at that. And then the barbells came, and I said, oh. This was no fun. I liked building the place. After it was built, they sat there for a long time. But I remember they came from York, PA, right? And it was big stuff. But the other reason, I mean, if you think, the other reason would be that they really would like to sign these people up to vote, right? And that's crazy. And the third reason would be they hate our country. Because who would want to have millions of people coming into our country? Many of them are murderers. Many of them are terrorists. Many of them are gang members from the street MS-13 and almost worse. You know, the Venezuelan gangs are almost worse. And these countries are taking their prisons and they're taking their prison population, putting them in buses and bringing them to our border. Venezuela's got half their prison population has been brought to the United States of America and dumped like we're a garbage can for their people. And these are rough prisoners. These are really rough people. These are not people that you want to say, oh, gee, let's have dinner tomorrow night. These people are tough and mean, and they're coming into our country by the hundreds of thousands. And we have over 21 million people in 3.5 years. If they ever got possession, and you know, we have a real problem. We have to take these criminals out of this country. We have to deport these criminals, and we're going to do it. And we're going to do it. And I know this is very much a senior-oriented little meeting, but Mike and I were talking. I think this is the biggest senior issue. This is the biggest issue we have. They're destroying our country. They're ruining our country. You're not going to be able to walk outside anymore, and they're depositing them. So they were saying, Kamala was saying yesterday, no, I really think walls are fine. Well, for her whole life, walls are, forget it. And the only two things, remember, that work without obsolescence are walls and wheels, right? And walls work. And they worked with us, and they worked brilliantly with us. And she was against the wall. She voted against it. She sued us to try and have it taken down as we were building it. It was very hard to get approval. And what I did is I just said, you know, this is crazy. Because I rebuilt the entire military, the entire U.S. military. They shouldn't have given a lot of it to Afghanistan. They gave a big chunk to Afghanistan in the most embarrassing moment. But we rebuilt the entire military. We're going to do it a little bit again because they've given a lot of it away. We defeated ISIS. We did all of these things. We got you the largest tax cut in the history of our country, the larger even than Ronald Reagan's tax cut. The largest regulation cuts. We had the best economy in the history of our country. We did so many things. And what we want to do is we want to make it safe for everybody, for seniors. This is a big senior issue, but for seniors and all. These are people these are high-end criminals. They have 629,000, all released by everyone. These numbers were given to us by Border Patrol. They never did it before either. They never talked about specifically. They'd say a lot of people coming in, but they were given to us by Border Patrol. Hundreds of thousands of high-end criminals are released, and she's the border czar. She was put there by Sleepy Joe Biden, and then he went back to sleep. He said, oh, no, it's in good shape. And, you know, and when they endorsed me, the question was asked of the top person who made a beautiful speech, Paul. I would call them all the time. I'd call them, how we doing on the border? Once a week, twice a week. I just like, you know, I was the president and they're destroying our country. And these guys are great. They want to do their job, but they're sort of not but I let them do their job. That's why we got the lowest number. But she said that, I said, did she call you often? No. Oh, in 3.5 years, how many times did she call? Thinking, you know, it'd be dozens. She never called. I said, wait a minute, she's the border czar. She's the one that's in charge of the border. She was put there by Biden, and she never called. No, sir, she never called one time. And when they endorsed me, they said he's the greatest president on the border, but he's the greatest president overall that we've ever had. I said, Mike, I said, does that include? I said, they said he's the greatest president we've ever had. And then one of them said, sir, you're the greatest president of my lifetime. I said, I like the first one more that we've ever had. I said, so greatest president that we've ever had. I said, does that include Abe Lincoln? Yes, sir. Does that include George Washington? Yes, sir. I said, that's good. right? But they also said, I mean, more importantly for purposes of this, they said the best border president, and without question, that I was that. I mean, I was that. So we're going to talk about some other things that, frankly, in many cases are a lot less interesting, because this is a big thing and it's very interesting. We had some people over at Mar-a-Lago today, and we had a press conference, and we had a mother who lost her beautiful 12-year-old daughter to a illegal migrant that came in, should have never been in the country. And we have them by the thousands. Lake and Riley, so many people, you know, Lake and Riley from Georgia. I could name 30 of them right now, and I've gotten to know in many cases the parents, they're just devastated. I don't know if they ever recover. I'm not sure that you ever recover from that, Mike, what they're going through. And I meet these people, and they're just like devastated. And it's all because they have an open border policy. People come into our country from places unknown, and they just walk in. They just walk right through everybody. And nobody wants this. Nobody can want this. How do you win an election with this? You only can win elections if you cheat with this. Who wants that? Who wants all the stuff that they do? All the transgender stuff, all of the woke military. We don't have a woke military. Let me tell you, we have a great military. They knocked out ISIS in a matter of weeks. When I was there, they said it was going to take five years. It took about 4 weeks. And they'll never be woke, by the way. These are people, I got to know them very well. These are not woke people. You have guys like Milley on the top, who should have been fired immediately. No, I mean, he should have been fired. Whoever was involved with Afghanistan in that horrible period of time, that horrible day, but it was a little more than a day, where we lost 13 great soldiers. They never talk about the ones that lost the arms, the legs, the face was obliterated. They never talk about them. They act like, oh, this is fine. It's not fine. We had many people lost their legs, and many people died, and many people on the other side died. I count them too. I mean, people on the other side, hundreds of people died that day, and it should have never taken place. We gave up Bagram. When you leave, you take the soldiers out last. You don't take the soldiers. They took the soldiers out first. Our soldiers came out first, and it was totally just a horrible situation. And I think Mike Putin saw that, and he said, well, these people, they're a paper tiger. Let's go into Ukraine. I know Putin would never have done it if I was president. Not even a chance. No, it's not a chance. I used to talk to him about, don't do it, Vladimir, don't do it. I know. It was the apple of his eye. Say, don't do it, Vladimir, don't do it. Oh, this is going to be terrible, Vladimir, if you do that. Not going to be good. You know, don't forget, I ended their pipeline, Nord Stream 2. Nobody ever heard of Nord Stream 2 until I came along. They were building the biggest pipeline in the world to Germany and all over Europe. And I said, no, you're not going to do it. You mean we're defending you from Russia, and you're paying Russia billions of dollars a month for oil and gas? We're not going to do that. I mean, it's so ridiculous under NATO. And we stopped it. And then Biden comes in, he approved it, but he stopped the Keystone pipeline, which we needed. That's our pipeline. He stopped that, but he approved. And then they say, Trump wasn't that tough on Russia. I was so tough on Russia. It was the biggest project they've ever had. I stopped it. And so we have a country that's been run by fools. It's been run by stupid people. Low IQ individuals. They really are. They're low IQ. He was low IQ. Biden was a low IQ guy 35 years ago. He was a low IQ guy when he went to school, when he went to college. He was always a low IQ guy. But he put somebody in who's actually worse than him. And if we put her in office, this country's finished. I really believe it. This country is finished. One of the reasons the stock market's going up, Scott Bessent, who's one of the biggest, most respected people on Wall Street, he's a very brilliant guy. Of course, if he said differently, I probably wouldn't be saying this. But he said the only reason the stock market's going up is because everybody on Wall Street thinks that Trump is going to win the election. I think that's true. So we have to keep you safe. In addition, from a medical standpoint, Mike, we have to keep them safe physically from these people that are coming in. And we're going to do I don't like doing this, but we're going to do the largest deportation in the history of our country. We're going to get all of these criminals out. And it's not going to be easy. And, you know, I say that, and you know who has the record? Dwight Eisenhower. And I call him a moderate. But he hated to see people coming in from other countries and violating our borders. He was right, but he was a very big deporter. He deported people when they walked into our country. He'd take them out, and he has the record. And I don't. It's not a record that I want either. We all have a heart, but we have no choice. Now you have also, and you also have others, and we'll also finish that. No, we're going to put up sections of the wall that would have been put up in a matter of weeks. It could have. You know what they did with this wall? Much of it they sold for 5 cents on the dollar for scrap metal. And we're going to have to buy it again, but we're not going to pay 5 cents. We're going to pay a lot. It was a very expensive. This was a wall designed specifically for it. In fact, I often talk about it. I never liked the panel on top. You know what it was called? An anti-climb panel. It looked beautiful when you had but when you put the panel on top, it didn't look as good. And I said, why do you do that? They said, it's anti-climb. I said, I don't believe it is. And we actually had mountain climbers and drug climbers. We got a couple of them. It's unbelievable. They can carry a 100-pound sack on their back. But they can go up that thing. You and I could never do that, I think. You and I could. No, they go up it like it's nothing. And actually, the anti-climb panel worked. So I said, good. So it was built specifically out of steel, concrete, and rebar. And hardened steel, very hardened concrete. So we built so many miles of it, and it worked. And we had the best. And by the way, Mexico did pay. They paid a big price. They weren't able to pay for the wall, but they gave us tens of thousands of soldiers. I said to the president, you're letting these people into our country. You have to give us soldiers to protect us while we're building the wall. I can't do that. I can't do that. I said, if you can't do that, then I'm going to put tariffs on every product that you make, and we're going to charge you 25% back. And he said to me, like I said, I'd love to do that. That's what happened. Millions and millions, maybe billions, but millions and millions of dollars they spent on, they gave us, and I said, free. I don't want to pay for your soldiers. I want it free because they're coming through your country into our country. And we did a lot of things. We did great things, and very important was the rebuilding of our military. But in part of the rebuilding, I said, look, this is an invasion into our country because you couldn't deal with Congress. You had guys like Mitch McConnell and others that were just absolutely terrible. I tell you, he can be Republican. He can be. I'm a person that says it like it is. And guys that were really not on our side very much. And I will tell you, I said, this is an invasion of our country. I'm going to take it out of the military because the military had a tremendous, I was able to get tremendous amounts of money to rebuild our military. We have jets that were 50 years old. Mike would often hear stories where you had the bombers where the grandfather flew the plane, the son flew the plane, and then the grandchild was flying the plane. The same plane. It was like so old. And we rebuilt almost our entire military. We're going to be upgrading that. So we did a lot of things, and we did a lot of things medically. One thing I'd like to talk about is right to try. So do you know what that is? I hope nobody in the room needs it. But we have the best labs, doctors, technicians, but our laboratories are the best for new medicines and everything. They're really amazing. But you can't get it approved. I mean, and rightfully, you can't get it by the FDA. They can't stand me, by the way. I used to push them. I got it down from 12 years to 5 years, but they need certain times. I mean, they do need. I want everything to be rushed, but you can't necessarily do that. But we have a situation where we have things that are really good. We're pretty sure they work. They may not, but we're pretty sure they work. And I said, why isn't it, if a person's terminally ill, why can't they use this stuff that may or may not work? Sir, it's been going on 48 years. They couldn't get it worked out. The country didn't want it because our country would be sued. The insurance companies definitely didn't want it. The labs didn't want it because they didn't want a terminally ill person to be using, something that's going to be like show badly, where they have to put it down. They have to do their lists, and they don't want to be, they call it a list. They didn't want to be on the list. Somebody's terminally ill and dies and using the medicine, and I understand that. So I got everybody in a room, every one of the doctors, the labs, the insurance companies, and even the country representatives, the Justice Department. They all came in because they couldn't get it done. I said, here's what we do. Somebody can use it. And these people were going all over the world. They were going to Asia. They were going to Europe. If they had money, and they would get scammed many times, but they'd go all over the world. We couldn't do it here. And most of them, though, had no money, and they'd go home and they'd die. I'd say, look, if somebody's terminally ill, I want to give them a shot at life. It's a great feeling, at least. At least they can say, well, you know, I've got something, and maybe it'll work, and maybe it won't. But what, you know, the expression, what the hell do we have to lose? Somebody's terminally ill. Why? They were saying, we'll be sued. I said, you're not going to be sued. So we worked out, and it didn't take that long. After 48 years, within a period of about a month, and then I got it approved by Congress, believe it or not, we could get things done. But think of this, we got it approved, and everybody agreed. Anybody that signed that document, you wouldn't sue anybody. If something happened to your family, the family would sign, the person would sign. No liability for anybody, and you have the right to try. We have saved thousands and thousands of people, and it's very interesting. Some of the biggest proponents of it now are the people that fought it the hardest to get it, like the laboratories, the medical companies, because it actually showed that it worked. People are terminally ill, and in many cases they came back, they had absolutely no problems, they have no disease, they have no anything. It's called Right to Try. We did that. Nobody thought we could get it approved. We got it approved. They signed a waiver of liability, and which in business you sort of do. But I got everybody into a room. I said, we got to do this. And we've used, I have a person who works for me was saved because of that. A very great person that works for me was saved because of Right to Try. There was no medicine. There was nothing was going to work, but there was a space age something, material, you know, medicine that they were going to use and that they did use. And it saved anyway. It saved millions of lives, all these different things that they're developing. And in some cases it doesn't work, but in many cases it does. I would say in many more cases it does. So, Mike, we saved thousands and thousands of lives. And again, I hope nobody in this room needs it, but it's awfully good. It's awfully good. At least it gives you a hell of a shot, and it turned out to be really amazing. So I'd like to ask Mike to now take over and go around the room. I'd love to hear from Ed and Ted and everybody, and we'll see how we're doing, okay? Thank you very much. Thank you. It's a great honor. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Well, Mr. President, you certainly just gave us a good reason to be happy about next Tuesday. You reminded us why you've been fighting for the people. And every one of these folks who are here at the table are here because they live in this area. They all come from different perspectives, but they have a unique understanding of what's needed in this country and why we need you to be back in the White House. And I'm going to start with Donald Clark. He's a retired police lieutenant. He served 32 years, and he did a variety of roles from patrol officer, field training officer, K-9 officer, was on the SWAT team. I think it's interesting, Donald, you were in the police business 32 years. You've been married 36. You might tell us which was the hardest of those two careers, but I want you to speak specifically.
Don't do it. You can get yourself in trouble. He wanted to be cute. I've done that. Don't do it. Say, I love my wife very much.
The police was...
You'll be careful on this.
Good answer.
But speak to the issue of crime. Would you go back into police work today knowing the kind of challenges police officers face that maybe weren't faced then? And then as a retiree, how difficult it is to live on retirement income given the economy that we currently have?
I'll be totally honest, I would not want to go back and work on the street again. I spoke with a lot of my colleagues, and the biggest thing that is really challenging now is it's burnout, the inability of retention and recruitment of the officers that we need due to the lack of respect and hatred towards the law enforcement prevalent in our big cities today. Coupled with that is the lack of support from administration, budget cuts, and the lenient and soft on crime policies of the district attorney's office in those cities. In turn, a trickle-down effect into the surrounding communities comes down from this. And just because Philadelphia has it, now all of a sudden Upper Darby has the same issues. So And then with this, it's forcing law enforcement to do more with less. And the one thing I always told my officers when I was on in roll call was, everybody showed up to work tonight. Everybody goes home tonight. And what we need is to be back to law and order.
Yep. Right. Thank you.
Now that I'm retired, and I retired in 2020, and I do have a good pension, but it is a fixed income. My wife, who is a registered nurse, Lori, she retired in 2022. But with the unstable economy, the high cost of living, high inflation, we were not comfortable with what we had put away for our savings for retirement. So Lori took another job, and actually she just retired last week. But we were not comfortable with what we had in our savings, and we weren't sure how far it was going to go. And if less things changes with this economy right now, I don't know if I'm going to have enough when I do, if I'm going to live that long. So
it's terrible. Thank you, Brian.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Dr. Maribel Valdez was born in Puerto Rico and came to the United States. Came to the United States when she was 17 and got her doctorate in occupational therapy. She spent nearly 40 years as an occupational therapist, working primarily with the elderly in nursing homes, rehabilitation centers, and home health. In private practice, she was a Medicare and Medicaid provider for occupational therapy services. So Maribel, you have had a lot of experience working with Medicare, both as a provider and now as a customer. Would you mind speaking to your experience working with the 1-800 Medicare hotline?
Mr. President, I just wanted to tell you that I moved here in 1981 from Puerto Rico, and I want you to know that Puerto Rico stands behind you, and Puerto Rico loves you.
Thank you. Well, we love it. I know it very well, and we helped you through a lot of bad storms, I'll tell you. We had some really bad ones. You remember you were there when I brought the hospital ship against everyone's advice, and we got it in there and took care of a lot of people. But I think no president's done more for Puerto Rico than I have. So thank you. That's really nice of you to say. Appreciate it. Thank you, Mary.
My experience with the 1-800 Medicare line has actually been very positive. As a customer, I was pleasantly surprised. The wait time is really no longer than about 10 minutes. The automated system tells you how long you're going to wait, and if you do not want to wait, they will call you back. You could leave your message and they will call you back, and they call you back promptly. It also tells you when the height of calls is at, so you want to call on a different day when they don't have that many calls, you could call on that day. The information has always been very helpful. It has been my experience. They share a lot of resources with me. They take their time. They even go through the website and say, let's go to Medicare.gov and let me show you which page you could find this information. If I'm not by my computer, they will email me the publication or the policy for me to look at later. So I have had a really good experience. And right now especially is open enrollment from October 15th to December 31st. I always call during open enrollment because there's always changes coming up, and I have never had any difficulty.
And Maribel, what would you think if I was to tell you that the Biden-Harris administration was seeking to end as we know it this exceptional customer service that you love?
I wouldn't know what to do. I mean, what will happen during open enrollment if I have heard that there's an upcoming change to my Medicare benefits and that they're going to change, and I have nowhere to call? Or nobody replies to my phone call, or I had to maybe only go to the internet and rely on information that is not accurate or reliable, you know.
Yeah,
Could I ask a question? So
Sure. I'm
watching how sharp and smart and beautiful you are. And we're not allowed to say that, politically. That's the end of your career. But she is beautiful. But I'm just watching, and I see it says retired. Why are you retired? You should not be retired. You've got a lot of strength.
Unfortunately, I was at a grocery store shopping and I passed out. I had an aneurysm in my brain that I didn't know I have. And it caused me to have a stroke and I had to retire. So I'm currently on Medicare as a consumer because I'm too disabled to be able to do my job. But I still work part-time, 15 to 20 hours a week.
You look fantastic. Thank you. Great job.
Yeah.
Thank you, man.
You're welcome.
And Mr. President, as you know, the Biden-Harris administration's forced unionization of this critical hotline is going to hurt seniors to reward their big union bosses. If it's okay, Mr. President, we wanted to ask you, when you're back in the White House, will you be able to talk about your plans to put seniors ahead of these special interests to make sure that we protect 1-800-Medicare?
Well, they are special interests, there's no question about it, but there are no special interests with me. I don't care. I don't need it. I don't need the money. I don't need anything. I want to do what's right, but Maribel's going to be my consultant. She's only the special interest. She's going to be my consultant. All right, you let me know. You know more than those guys that get paid a lot of money doing what you do, and you do it so well. It's really great. Thank you very much. Yeah, the answer is absolutely. We'll do what's right. Mr. President. Thank you, Maribel.
You're welcome, sir.
I love the idea that you're going to use her as a consultant. I think that's smart, and it's
it.
also one of the reasons that people recognize that you listen to people who are actually in the middle of something. We have a couple with us here today, Joe Rooney and his wife, Beth, both of whom have been military aviators. Joe, a Marine Corps pilot, career. The Marines are here. We're in good shape. He retired as a lieutenant colonel in the Marine Corps. He's then flown for Delta Airlines for many years in private sector. His wife, Beth, pretty remarkable life. 24 years as a naval aviator, the very first U.S. Navy female jet test pilot ever. Retired as a commander. Very impressive, both of them. They've served our country honorably and very significantly, and I think I'll just ask them as a couple to express, in terms of speaking to the president, tell him which one of you is the better pilot. That's what we really want to know.
I'll answer that. My husband has retired, and I'm still flying. No question.
There you go.
Great.
What do you hope from the president in terms of policies that will affect people who are retired, whether they're military or private sector? But you've both done your service for this country.
I'll start out, if that's okay. And if you don't mind, I'll make a quick digression. Mr. President, have you ever seen the movie True Grit?
Yes.
John Wayne?
Yes.
So it was my honor to live under you and help get you elected 8 years ago. And then I watched those 4 years. And I have seen what's happened in the intervening 4 years to everything that was done with you leading up to the calamity of Butler, PA. And I hope you don't mind me saying this, but you have true grit. Okay?
Thank you, Joe. Thank you, Joe.
It is our honor to do all we can. I live in Montgomery County and Abington Township, and the GOP in Montgomery County and Abington Township is working every day from now through November 5th to get you elected. And we're doing it. So,
Joe, thank you very much. That's really nice.
I know I digress, but I honestly mean it. And my wife will add some more. But you asked about how we can help seniors. Mr. President, for 4 years you showed us what a strong economy looks like. A strong economy helps seniors. A strong economy helps people on fixed income. A strong economy helps people who are below the average amount of money or maybe struggling, and we have them in our own neighborhood. What a strong economy we need is low energy prices, and I know you're all for low energy. We need an all-of-the-above solution. We need nuclear, we need natural gas, we need coal, we need electrical coming from wind, and we need it from water and everywhere else that we can get it. But it's all of the above. That will lower our prices for food prices, gasoline prices, the prices that seniors and fixed-income people pay in the wintertime, and basically it's going to lower inflation, which is the tax that cripples us all. And we've had that before, and we'll have that with you. From what I understand of the Harris plan, it consists of two things. One is divide people, and the second one is raise taxes. That doesn't solve anything, and any economist will tell you, you tax things, you get less of it. You lower the taxes on things, you get more of it. And the other thing I'd like to say, and folks, I hope you understand this, Tim Walz is the governor of Minnesota. Minnesota is one of only 10 states that tax Social Security income at the state level. So she chose him. So for all of us in Pennsylvania, we don't have that right now. What can we expect? That is anti-fixed income. That is anti-senior. And I'm afraid that that's what we may look forward to. And the last thing I'll ask you, just because I don't know the answer to this, what does 10 million plus illegal aliens coming into our country look forward to as far as the Social Security Trust Fund is concerned, as far as Medicare is concerned? How can we look at our own kids and go forward and say, we have any idea about it, because nobody does. This is a catastrophe. So those are my thoughts.
Well, they're good thoughts. And the only mistake that this great husband of yours made was it's not 10 million, it's probably 21 million, which is, and that doesn't include the gotaways. You know what a gotaway, that's the people that just pour in and, they're all pouring in. And, we're not going to stand for it, number one. And number two, we can't. And the reason they come is because we say we'll give you, they actually tell them we're going to give you health care, we're going to give you this, we're going to give you Social Security, we're going to give you education. We have a community in Springfield, Ohio, with 32,000 illegal migrants were put into a 50,000 person community, and you can't get into the hospitals, you can't get into the schools, you can't do anything. It's a disaster. And it's all got to change. It's not sustainable. It's not, you had a nice community, Springfield. And now it's, you heard about this, Mike, 32,000 illegal migrants. Now, they sort of made it legal by playing cutesy with the law, but they're illegal migrants. And it's just not sustainable. This is happening all over the country. In terms of pricing, what you're really alluding to is drill, baby, drill. Because when we bring the energy costs down, everything's coming down. And we have more energy under our feet than any other country, including Saudi Arabia and Russia. And we were, as you know, energy independent 4 years ago, and now it's a mess. We're buying tar, big bets of tar from Venezuela, and we're refining it. It's a mess. And we have the best energy, we have the best oil, we have the most oil, and we don't want to use it. We want to go and give money. Venezuela is the enemy, and we now are making them a very rich enemy. It's not even believable what they're doing. They don't know what the hell they're doing. But we're going to drill, baby, drill. We're going to use our stuff. We don't need anybody else's. And we're going to open up Anwar in Alaska, which is as big as Saudi Arabia, they say, the biggest in the world. I got it open. Ronald Reagan couldn't do it. Nobody could do it. For 60 years, they couldn't do it. I got it done. And Biden comes in and he decides to not let it happen. I'll get that thing open so fast. We'll supply to everybody. And we'll start paying down our debt and all of those good things. But your costs are going to come down. You bring energy. Energy is really more than anything else. It was their spending, but it was also energy. That's really what brought up the costs, because energy, you need it for everything. If you make donuts, you need it for the stove. You need it for the trucks, for delivery. You need, and we're going to have so much energy. And one of the pledges that I make is that we are going to have energy costs, which are very high right now. And that includes gasoline. We're going to get rid of the mandate, by the way, the electric mandate for your cars. That's going to come off. And that's great. If somebody wants an electric car, Elon Musk gave me the biggest endorsement you've ever seen, and his cars are great. But not everybody needs to have an electric car or wants to have an electric car. You're going to be able to get hybrids, you get regular gasoline-powered cars, but we're going to bring your energy costs down by 50% within 1 year. By the way, it's going to be easy. We can do it. Nobody else can because we have so much. It's right under us. Even in New York State, they don't realize that New York State is sitting on a tremendous amount. And if they used it, Lee would, I told Lee would have opened that up in 2 seconds. They don't want to drill for the environment. And the people in Pennsylvania, they're sitting there. They have a Cadillac, and the people across the line is right here, and they don't have a car. And it's just absolutely, we have so much energy in this country. We're going to bring down the prices. That'll bring down everything else, and you'll be in great shape. But that's fantastic. I'm fascinated by your wife. So they say that as a pilot, the hardest thing you can do is land on an aircraft carrier. Have I heard? Is that a correct statement? Do you land on an aircraft carrier?
Yes, in fact,
You got to be kidding. She might be better than you.
all the airplanes have hooks on the back, so you got to use them. So
Right.
go land a carrier.
That's fantastic. It's a great story. Thank you very much, Bob. Appreciate it.
All right. Ed Grove is a telecom union member and a proud American patriot. I understand he's also a talented musician and singer, a jack of all trades, and the proud father of 4 grown children. Ed, you're a longtime telecom union member, and we see a lot of unions acting far more political than they ever have in the past. And it's interesting that it seems like a lot of union leaders are not aligned with the rank and file. In your personal opinion, do you see this where union leaders, with regards to political matters, are in conflict with their leadership?
First of all, thank you for having me.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Ed.
It's a great honor to be here. Yep. My personal opinion, of course, I can't speak for the unions, but there is a silent majority. Political stuff we really don't care about. Being represented is what matters most to us. Personally, I just don't believe union bosses speak for all union membership. I support Donald Trump because he supports keeping manufacturing jobs in-house.
Yes. Good.
It was proven in your first term. Thank you for that.
Thank you.
You also take care of the American worker instead of going overseas or out of country to do so. Very much appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ed. Very nice. I appreciate it. Lee is alluding to the fact that the Teamsters took a vote and 61%, this is nationwide, 62% of them support Trump.
Yes, they do.
And they have a very good head. They have a man named Sean O'Brien who's a great guy. He's the head of it. But he released those numbers, which is, yes, something I appreciated very much. And the firefighters, the same thing. They support me, the rank and file, so we have a lot of the unions beyond that. I think the auto workers in Detroit, we're going to bring back a lot of plants into Michigan. We're going to bring them back very fast. And you probably read, Mike, where I they were building a giant plant in Mexico, sponsored and owned by China. And I let them know, and that would have destroyed Michigan. This plant would have made as many cars as all of Michigan. This was going to be the largest plant in the world, and I let them know, you build that plant, and we're going to put the biggest tariffs on those cars you've ever seen. And, that was about 2 weeks ago. They've just announced they're not going to build the plant. That's a great thing. Isn't that good? Now, if they want to build it in the U.S., that's okay, Ed. If they want to build it, Mike, in the U.S., that's okay. But they're not going to build it in another country and send the cars in here and destroy all of that. That's what's happening. That's what's been happening for 50, 60 years. So China just announced they're not going to build the plant. I'm very happy about that. Thank you very much, China.
Absolutely. Thank you, sir. Great honor.
Thank you.
Mr. President, I want to introduce you to Dr. Kathleen McGuire. She is just to my right here. She has a very esteemed academic career in gerontology, but I think she brings something else to the table, not just the academic study of gerontology, but more importantly, she cared for her own mother for 2.5 years. And Dr. McGuire, if you could express, when you went from the academic side, studying and teaching others about gerontology, and then taking care of your mother, what were the big challenges, and what kind of assistance did you find from the government when you were trying to be the caregiver to your own mom?
Thank you. I appreciate being invited here. The challenges were not being able to navigate the system, not knowing how to navigate the system. Yes, I taught the class, but it's different when it's your own family member. You can tell everybody else how to do this, make sure you give them resources here. But if you don't know it yourself, that's even more difficult. When you live that experience, living with my mom, and I'll tell you, it was very challenging. And I'll tell you a little bit about her history. What happened was that she was living alone in the Pocono Mountains, on a mountain, 100 miles away from family. She was a widow, trying to keep up her house. And according to the Department of Human Services, she was not able to get any assistance because she was not under the federal poverty level. Even though she was on a fixed income, getting Social Security, and she had an Advantage plan, which was also more money. She had one big asset, and that asset was her home. So she was asset rich and cash poor. All right? So it was difficult. She wanted to live there, and she wanted to die there, but it was more difficult. She had to make difficult decisions. Do I pay my taxes? Which she had to pay her taxes. She had to pay association fees. She had to pay utility bills with, $1,400 a month, maybe? She had to pay for food, maybe. And she had to come up with a decision. What do I do? Do I maintain my home or do I eat? She chose to maintain her home rather than her well-being. She decided, as her health deteriorated, we brought her back to my house in Bucks County, Upper Southampton, rather than Lower Southampton. Not far from Mickey D's where you were. Yes.
Right.
Nice job, by the way.
Thank you.
And that whole day was very well appreciated.
Thank you.
And so she was not really willing. If you get to a certain age, my mom was 83 years old, they don't want to leave their home. She wanted to stay in her home. She wanted to die in her home, but she was not safe anymore to be alone. And so we had to quickly find out and navigate the Medicare system. And so what we found for my mother and maybe for other seniors, because remember she was asset rich and cash poor, that Medicare does not pay for adult care services, adult daycare services, hospice. She was in the hospital in April. If I wanted to switch her from this room to another room, $14,000 a month. Cash. Okay? All right? She came to us and she didn't have there was no respite care. That is not covered. Home care assistance is not covered, and you have to have basically 4 hours of service from these, agencies. So what happened was that I'm fortunate enough and very proud of my immediate family. We became the caretakers. We became the elder care supporters. My family supported her. It was challenging sometimes. It was a team effort. She was able to get to her doctor's visits, go to the dentist. Any money that she didn't have or couldn't pay, our family supported her. She had 3 meals a day. She had significantly lost a lot of weight. She was down to 100 pounds at 5'6". Well, she'll probably less than that as you shrink. But she gained 20 pounds with us. Gained 20 pounds. Had to buy new clothing. Yep. Thank God that's for my son's cooking. But she wasn't allowed to leave the table until she finished everything. So that was, what goes around comes around, right? All her activities of daily living were supported by us. We took her everywhere she needed to go. She was my best bud. She went with me door knocking. She did. I had signs. Very nice. Yeah.
I knew I liked her.
83 years old, door knocking. Sometimes
Very
I'd
nice.
leave her in the car and I forgot that she was there. I was too busy talking. But she was with me, wasn't she? But the most important thing, because, Medicare, we had a difficult time. She had her family, and that is who her support was. And unfortunately, it took 2.5 years for being assigned a case manager to help us. Did that work? After 6 weeks of being into a facility, she had passed away. And at lower than, probably about 100 pounds. But you know what? It's difficult to navigate this system. And it's difficult when you need help and assistance because there's no one there to help you. And I'm very proud of my family for that. So asset rich and cash poor.
What did they do with the house? What happened with the house?
Oh my gosh. Well, I was showing somebody pictures earlier.
See, I'm in the real estate business, so it's always interesting.
Yeah. My mom, she lived in the Poconos, and what happened was I was there one day visiting my son in New York, and I came home, I noticed mold. There's black mold all over, and she was hiding it. So we had to take the whole roof off. You could look into the house, sheetrock off, everything off during the winter. And so her utility bills were $1,000 a month. So what did I say? She ended up with $1,400 maybe to $1,200, $1,000 for her utilities. What did she have left to pay for the rest of her bills? So as the work progressed, now insurance does not cover a new roof.
Right.
So as the work progressed, the workers walked off the job, off the construction job, went out of business with her money, and did not finish the job. So the house now is sitting there. Not sitting there, we're going through her things, which is the worst, horrible thing to have to go through. Going through her things, and we're going to have to put it up for sale. And
A good area for sale.
in the Poconos, Albrightsville, right by Hickory, if anybody knows where Hickory runs, State Park, a Big Boulder, Lake Harmony. Yes.
Good.
Yep.
That's good. Well,
Mr. President,
Thank you.
you announced a tax break for Americans like
Yes.
Dr. McGuire that people that serve as caregivers. So, I mean, it's like you've already thought about how that could
I did.
help her.
It was suggested to me by a very smart reporter, if you can believe this, right? There's some smart ones out there. Good one, actually, a good person, and suggested a tax deduction for caregivers because you devote the time as a family to it, and if you had to hire people, I mean, you wouldn't have enough people. You wouldn't be able to do it. Families take care of their children. When we have service members coming back from wars, sometimes the wives don't want to do it. They won't. Bad things happen. You understand? They come back and they're injured, badly injured. The mother takes care of the son and has to take care of the son for a long period of time. It's very sad when you see it happening. They go out to war and they come back and they have problems, difficulties. And so I want to make it so that we're getting tax credits for those people that take care of people, because honestly, if these people, a lot of them are called angel moms, and they're called a lot of different things, but they're beautiful names, actually beautiful names. They're beautiful people. And not everybody's like that, to be honest with you. But when we have people like that, I think they should be given that tax credit that we talked about. I mentioned it the other night at Madison Square Garden. It's great.
If some families are, the caretakers have to leave their jobs as well.
Right.
I'm on a Social Security. I'm over
Will you be
age.
able to finish the house yourself? Will you be able to?
My husband, who's behind me, and my children will probably finish the work, and we're trying to.
Well, if you need a little extra, am I allowed to do this? I will, because I'm not in office now, so I could do it. But you'll come to me a little bit, okay? You'll call up my microphone. So if you need a little extra, we'll help you out. Okay? All right? You left, and I'll have him be the guy to figure it out. All right? All right, Mike? That's a beautiful story. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Lovely. You're a lovely woman. Beautiful. Beautiful. Thank you.
Appreciate
I'm
it.
glad the pilots didn't give me any story like that, right? Huh? Thank you. Well, good luck with it. Beautiful story.
Yes, thank you. I appreciate it. And grief is hard.
No. That sounds like a great mother, actually, right?
We were very close. My mother was very young when she had she hates it when I say it, and I hope she sees this, my older sister. She's only about 15 months older. And so, yes, she was my best friend, basically.
That's great. Beautiful story. Thank you.
Everywhere.
Thank you, Catherine.
Thank you.
Mr. President, as I introduce our last panelist here, it's a little closer to our heart with Wesley, fellow Army veteran, as I introduce a fellow 82nd Airborne Division veteran, Ted Murphy. There are a lot of military branches up here well represented, but at this event that has a lot of seniors, we have one person in particular who is a member of our nation's greatest generation. He served in the Pacific from 1944 to 1946. Ed Buffman is here. Ed.
He's great. Thank you, Ed. I saw Ed backstage, by the way. He looks like he's like 60. Ed is great. He's got the best skin. I said, what do you do with your skin? It's so beautiful. Look at you. He's got good hair. He's got the whole package. Am I allowed to say your age? Am I allowed to say that? No. You'd be shocked. It's great to be with you. You are a character, too. He's got his beautiful wife. But you are really something. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Mr. President.
Thank you. He's a great guy.
Mr. President, it was an honor to be with you in Normandy for the 75th anniversary of D-Day, and I remember sitting filled with World War II veterans, and they were all hollering after you, trying to get your attention. The amount of love with all of these veterans there at that moment. I've had the opportunity. I signed up in the military when President Clinton was in office, serving with different commanders-in-chief. There has never been a commander-in-chief who has had the back of our military service members like President Trump. And our veterans have never had a commander-in-chief who's had our back like President Trump.
Thank you very much. Very nice. Thank you very much.
And we need to get you back next Tuesday.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Excellent. Ted Murphy comes from a family of military service. Ted has served his country in uniform in the U.S. Army, in government at the Department of Justice and Department of Homeland Security, as well as inside of the U.S. Attorney's Office in Philadelphia and with ICE National Security Law Division in D.C. He is one of the top immigration attorneys in the country. So Ted, as a top immigration expert and as a veteran, can you speak to the impact of illegal immigration on the safety of our citizens?
Yes. Thank you for having us here today to listen to these important issues. As mentioned, I come from a family of veterans. I'm one of 7 siblings. 5 of us were active duty, 3 are retired military. My 2 sons are medically retired from the military. And even my mother, at the age of 55, she joined the medical reserve services with the Army and served until the age of 69. Ended up as a field commander in Bosnia. Included in that group are 4 paratroopers and 2 combat medics. And those are just the guys. The tough ones are my mother and my sister. So, veterans, it's taking 5 months now to process their medical claims. It's taking a long time. Claims that shouldn't take that long. Veterans desperately need care when they apply for those services. But at the same time, the VA staff are being used to process medical claims for those thousands of individuals come across the border illegally who are detained by immigration along the southern border, taking time that should be devoted to processing veterans' medical claims. In the past 2 years, nearly 1.5 million illegal immigrants who were paroled into the United States are eligible immediately for taxpayer-funded housing through HUD, other public benefits to include SSI, Medicaid, CHIP, the Affordable Care Act subsidies, while at the same time, low-income and homeless veterans seeking benefits through the VA and HUD are often denied by those programs or moved out of those facilities to make room for immigrants.
It's not even possible. That's what they're doing. It's not even possible to believe, actually.
With Homeland Security transferring millions of the other illegal immigrants throughout the United States with no federal funding available, the cost for their housing, medical care, and education falls on states and local governments as unfunded mandates, depleting resources and funding available not only for our veterans and our seniors, but for all of our citizens. As a former federal immigration prosecutor and private attorney, I know that many of those entering illegally include persons involved in drug cartels, gangs, sex trafficking, human trafficking, and much more. Homeland Security personnel have admitted that very few are properly vetted, yet they've been allowed to come into the United States and are continuing their trades here. That puts all of us at risk. So, Mr. President, after you win your re-election, how fast can we address these issues?
Well, we'll do it immediately. So I think I mentioned before that we have the highest rating of anybody in maybe ever at the VA. We did a lot of things. We also did something where we were allowed to get rid of civil servants that were really bad people that were, and I love civil servants, but this was a group of civil servants, a certain percentage, turned out to be 9,000 people. We got rid of this. These were people that treated the vets unbelievably. I mean, these are sick people. And we fired them and we replaced them with people that can take care of our people, that love our country and love our vets. It was a great thing. We'll get it done fast. You mentioned the word parole. That's a word they use now. They bring people in and they just say, you're paroled. And now they're all of a sudden like it's supposed to be some form of citizenship. That's what they're doing in Springfield, Ohio. 32,000 people. They're under parole, and people that are in this country. And you take a look at, they're putting a lot of the people that come in illegally. And some of these people are really, I'm trying to be nice, these are really rough people. Our soldiers are laying out on the streets in New York and other cities. And these people are walking through the main entrance of a hotel that's right there. They're laying here, and the people are walking right by them, and they're going into hotel rooms, in some cases luxury hotel rooms. The government's paying a fortune to these hotel companies that have them. The hotel company no longer, they don't even want to deal with regular people anymore. They get a bigger check than they've ever made in their life. They're making more money than they ever made in their lives running it as a migrant hotel. But you have veterans that are sleeping on the streets outside. It's freezing or it's hot, and it's all going to be changed, Ted. But, I mean, you brought it up beautifully, but I'm glad you mentioned the word parole, because that's a bad word right now. That's a bad word to a lot of people right now. They're using that word to get people illegally into this country, as far as I'm concerned. Thank you very much. We'll take care of it. We're going to work on it fast. Fast.
President, thank you so much for being here. Thank you for being willing to put yourself out there for us. You could have had such an easier life if you weren't doing this for us. You sacrificed so much. God bless you. Any final thoughts, Mr. President?
Well, thank you. Now, first of all, you're a fantastic young guy, and he's a great lawyer, great everything, and a very successful congressman, and he's a friend of ours, and he's really been great, Mike. I know how you feel about him, but I appreciate it. And Wesley, likewise. You didn't get a chance to speak as much. I was going to say, let's let him speak for about a half an hour because he's a very impressive guy, but he doesn't need to do that. Just to say that we're going to take care of things. We're going to do things. And, you are right. I didn't need this. I could have been on the most beautiful beaches in the world. I could have had a wonderful life like some other people. I would have had the great. But if I had it to do again, a lot of people say if you had it to do again, And Joe was nice enough to mention it was, I mean, they've been brutal, these people. They are horrible people. A lot of them are just absolutely horrible people that do not love our country. But if I had it to do again, would I rather be on the beach with the water, that beautiful salt water hitting me in the face, my white skin getting all nice and tanned? Or would I rather be here with you in Pennsylvania, making sure that people aren't going to cheat on the vote? And I will take you and Pennsylvania every single day. I will do it. No. And the reason is, Joe, and the reason is Lee and Wesley and Mike, and it's so great that we're all together because we've all been friends for a long time. But the reason is that we're going to make America great again. We're going to do something that nobody, a lot of people were worried about our country. This country is in very bad shape. We're a failing nation. We really are. We're a nation in decline, as some people would say. But we are a nation in decline, and we're not going to be a nation in decline for long. We're going to turn it around very fast, and we're going to make America great again. And I want to just thank everybody. And it's a real honor. The spirit, you see the spirit, Mike, it's incredible. The spirit that we have right here. It's all over. It's all over the country. And there's a word called hope. People really want, we did great the first time. We did much better the second time. We ran in 2016 than we ran. And as you know, we did much better. We got millions more votes. But there's never been anything like this spirit. And part of it is that, let's assume I haven't changed that much. I had these similar ideas and everything, but they see how badly our country's run. It's being destroyed by incompetent fools, and we're not going to let it happen. We're going to turn it around. We got to win. We got to win. We have 6 days to go, Joe. We got to win. So, and thank you very much. A great honor to be with you. Thank you. Thank you very much, everyone.